Hey guys, it's Kevin Ginsmeyer for the series premiere of Ash vs. Evil Dead, Season 1, Episode 1, Jefe. And obviously, I was hyped up for this show. I could not wait for it. I mean, all day long, I have been reviewing every single Evil Dead movie that there is. You guys haven't seen those reviews, you can check them out. They were my last 3 reviews for 31 Days of Horror, and the only reason I was doing that was because this was premiering. Not that I didn't want to watch those movies, but I probably would not have watched them this year if Ash vs. Evil Dead was not premiering. I mean, I knew that I could not wait for the show. Even without seeing 3 movies, I knew I was going to love this show. I mean, the tone just looked perfect. It looked like a really fun show, and damn did it not disappoint. This was such an amazing premiere. I loved it. It was hilarious, but they did so much with this that the original movies didn't do. And if they are going to do that on this show, I really do love that. I'll talk about that a little bit further when we get into the episode. But overall, I thought this was an amazing premiere. I really loved it, and I honestly feel like this has the potential to be better than Evil Dead 2. Like, that's how good I think this is going to be. I think this is going to be the best thing we've seen in the Evil Dead series. I can't wait to see more of it. And let's just get into it, because right off the bat, we get something that the movies never did. We see Ash in the real world. Not that we didn't see Ash in the real world in the TV show. Of course, we saw him, in the movies. We saw him, like, on Earth, but he was always confined to one space. The first movie, he was in the cabin. The second movie, he was in the cabin. The third movie, he was in 1300 AD. Well, here in the TV show, we actually get to see him interact in the real world, which I loved, and I thought was one of the things that really worked very well for Ash as a character. I love that. So right off the bat, I love the way they start out with Bruce Campbell. You see Ash basically, and Bruce Campbell, you can tell is right back in this role right off the bat. Ash is basically getting dressed, and he puts on a girdle, and he grabs a condom, and then his wooden hand. He has a wooden hand now, which is awesome. And again, guys, I said that they aren't counting Army of Darkness. It's not that they're not counting it, it's just they're never going to make reference to it because of the fact that they couldn't obtain the rights to it. So he heads down to the bar, and he's definitely looking to hook up, and he slides up to the bar, he slams his wooden hand down, and he basically tells this story about saving an 8-year-old boy from the front of a train to impress a woman at the bar. And you're not sure if the story is true or not, but that's why it's so funny, because you don't know if it's true. And I think that was definitely very funny. But the other thing I really loved about this scene is that he's acting like he's still 20 years old, which he's not. Bruce Campbell is like 50, and I think Ash is supposed to be 50 something as well. But I love that he's still acting like he's 20 something. You see that he really has no life. I mean, he's living in a trailer, so there's that. So right away, Ash has sex with this woman, and he's slapping her ass with his wooden hand. And just as she's yelling that she is having an orgasm, she spins her hand around, and it's a full on, and she basically she turns into a Deadite demon mode, saying that they're coming for him, and he stops, and he starts making an excuse, saying, he's seen something they hasn't seen for 30 years, and then they finish anyway, because she wanted him to finish, so he's like, alright, fine, I'll finish anyway. And I thought that was definitely very funny. I definitely really loved that, and that was the perfect introduction to Ash. He then heads back to his mobile home, gets out the evil grimoire, the Necromicon. Now, of course, the biggest thing with this show is, of course, in Army of Darkness, he was able to stop the Deadites. He defeated them, and it seemed like that threat was gone. However, of course we know in the show that the Deadites are back. So how is that going to happen? The way it happens in this show, I don't think they could have done it better. Honestly, it goes so well with Ash, and it's so stupid, but that's why it's perfect. We see there's pot jammed in there, and he has a flashback. He's invited this girl over to get high. Basically, they've gotten high. They're both high off their rocker. She asks him if he knows any poetry. He doesn't, but he uses the Book of the Dead, literally reads it aloud to her, and that's how the Deadites came back, and I think that's hilarious. I absolutely love that. And the funniest part of this is that Ash didn't even realize happened. He remembers all of this, and he just screams, fuck, and I love that, and I thought that was just a great introduction. Got us right back into, Ash as the role, and you can really tell that he really hasn't changed at all. In fact, maybe he's even more of an idiot than he was, which I love. So then we meet a new character, because now we know Ash. Of course, the rest of the characters on the show we don't know, because we then meet Amanda Fisher, who her character actually added some heart to this show. This was a genuinely scary scene, and I really like this, guys. I didn't expect the show to be genuinely scary, but this was genuinely quite creepy. I really like this. We see Amanda Fisher and her cop partner. They're answering a call about a woman screaming for her life in an old abandoned house, and Amanda finds said woman dead and in a frozen in Scream State. And what I loved about this is that, again, this is something we didn't really get in the other Evil Dead films because, again, they were all had to do with just the cabin, and this really expands it more, and I love that. Amanda finds said woman dead and frozen in a Scream State, and her partner John is downstairs with his gun pointed at an empty rocking chair that was rocking. And she tells him that something's not right there. There's someone covered in a sheet crying. She stands. They take the sheet off her. It looks like it's the girl that was smoking pot with Ash in the flashback, and it is. She is now a Deadite, and she starts speaking words from the Necronomicon, then turns her head all the way around, of course, kind of like an Exorcist reference, and she spins her arms too, starts running at the cops, knocking down John, and she says to Amanda that they know who she is. Before stabbing her with a pair of scissors, Amanda unloads a full chip into her chest, does nothing. John shoots her in the head. Obviously, they've never had experience with Deadites, so they don't really know what they're doing. John shoots her in the head, blowing her head off, but that doesn't work either. She throws John into a pair of antlers on the wall, and he's dead. And it was honestly kind of sad. You see Amanda, she shoots her in what remains of her head with a small, high-caliber gun. Looking at the antlers, he's not there anymore. She hears skittering on the ceiling and finally sees John. He's now a Deadite, of course, up there, and the two tussle, but she does get her gun back. He changes back to John and begs her not to shoot him. He goes back to Deadite mode, and she realizes that she has to kill him. And it was a genuinely sad scene. I liked the music that they played. You could tell they wanted to take that scene seriously, and I really liked her character. Again, she's never, really had any experience with Deadites before, and I thought they did that scene very well. So back to Ash, she's looking at a business card of someone named Lionel, who has a shop called Books from Beyond, probably the person that has the Necronomicon, and Ash tells his neighbor he might have to leave town for a while, and asks her if she can do some tidying of his trailer while he's gone, and she agrees, and then we realize that she's also a Deadite, and I think that was definitely very funny, and she says they are near, his time comes again, and then Zed's back to normal, and I think it's very interesting the way they're doing that. So Ash pulls up to his job at a generic big box store called Value Shop, and still, he really doesn't have a life. He's still a stock boy. It's not at S-Mart, but it is at Value Stop. And the reason I heard about that is because, again, they couldn't get the rights to Army of Darkness, so they had to change the name from S-Mart to Value Stop, but I think it works because it's 30 years later. You can't think that, they can't make you believe that S-Mart is still open 30 years later. As funny as that would be, it really would not make a lot of sense, and I think it works better that it's just another, it's another stock store. I really like that. So he asks if he can grab his check and go, and his boss is not into it at all. He says, he gets his pay at the end of the day, and Ash then breaks an entire box of light bulbs he was just told to take out back. I thought that was hilarious. And then we get introduced to the character of Pablo. He comes up, says he'll clean it up, and Pablo is awesome. Pablo feels like he's been on this from the beginning. Like, it feels like he was in all the movies. It feels like he's known Ash from the beginning, and I love that. That's how he's supposed to feel. He says he'll clean it up. He tells Pablo he's going to leave, and he tells him he has to meet his friend that started working there. Ash thinks that she's hot naturally, and she is pretty hot, I will say that. And Pablo says that she haunts his dreams. And the girl's name is Kelly. And he hits on her ruthlessly. And I loved his line. He says, I'm old, graying 10 pounds overweight. And he says he's 30, but it doesn't matter. At some point, you would have thought about it. And I thought that was definitely very funny. And he says when he's telling her he's sorry he has to leave her so soon, she slams on the counter and threatens him. She wants nothing to do with him. She does not like his style at all, and I kind of like that there's a woman here who doesn't like Ash. She doesn't trust him. She doesn't find him, she doesn't find him attractive. She doesn't find him intimidating. She flat out hates him, and I love that. I think that's great about her character. Something, again, that Ash has not dealt with before. So over at the Blue Lake Diner, Amanda's staring into the cup of coffee. She sees something, and a woman, Ruby, turns around and asks her if she's alright, and I'm like, oh shit, Ruby's gonna be a Deadite. And she says she thought she saw something but can't trust her eyes, and Ruby tells her she saw what she saw and walks out. And I like what they're doing with Amanda. Amanda's, kind of thinks she's going crazy. She doesn't know if she's really seeing these Deadites, but, I like that there are people that are more aware and there are people that are not aware. It's just showing us how other people are dealing with Deadites, which we did get to see in the Evil Dead films, but there was so much focus on Ash that I like that we're actually seeing how other people feel about it. Something that I think is very interesting and I really like. So Ash is in the warehouse at his work. All the lights go out. There's a child's laughter, and it's one of the dolls in the storeroom. It comes to life as a Deadite, and it attacks him. They start to fight. She bites his arm. He grabs a box cutter, coming at him again. Pablo splats her with a shovel, and Ash asks, "What the hell was that?" I thought that was hilarious. I mean, such a random scene, but for something like this, it just works so well and really goes with the wacky tone of this show. Very Evil Dead 2 hand-esque. That very much is what that remind me of. You know, when he had to fight his own hand, that's very much that remind me of, and I love that. I think that's really great stuff. So outside the value shop, storm clouds are gathering. Ash asks Paul if he believes in the force of evil, and Pablo says his uncle is a shaman, and Ash tells him after seeing this he thinks he's right, and not a shaman, a shaman, and basically Ash tells him about the night, the cabin, and finding the book. Now, when he tells him the story, I feel like this should be the previously on Ash versus Evil Dead. Like, could they ever do a previously on Ash versus Evil Dead? This is how they should do it. To have Ash telling this story. It'd be really cool if they did that. Kind of like what the Flash does and what Arrow does. I know this is not like the Flash or Arrow or anything, but I think it would be cool if they did it that way. I mean, Limitless does that. If you guys watch Limitless, they do that. So I think it'd be kind of cool if Ash versus Evil Dead did that. Just because his story sounds like something we'd hear in like a recap, and I definitely really like that. But what I also like with this, that I've said it before, none of the Evil Dead movies, they do connect, but they never force you to watch the other movies. Like, you could come into this not knowing anything, and boom, you basically just got the gist of the story, because, you know about the night in the cabin, you know about finding the book, and I like that we actually saw scenes from that night, because they've never showed all the scenes from the original movie. They've showed things here and there, but the second one, they had to change it. The third one, they briefly talked about it, and here they actually were able to show the whole thing, and I love that they were able to do that. That's something that is awesome. And Pablo says now, because he screwed up and read from that book one lousy time, the evil has found him. He says that now that he's screwed up and read from the book one lousy time, the evil has found him. And Pablo says that only one man will rise stand against it. They called him El Jefe, and he thinks that that's Ash. And, Ash basically, the bar has fallen into a sinkhole. Ash is freaking out. Pablo says he has to finish what he started. And Ash intends to try to run and leave the house. He does not plan on this is not the Ash that we know from the movies. I mean, you think that Ash would be willing to do this, but think about it. It's been 30 years since Ash has had to face the Deadites again. He's kind of sick of it, obviously. It would make sense. Obviously, that part of his life is over. He's wanted to move on. He obviously hasn't moved on, probably because he's still kind of affected by it, which, that in itself is pretty interesting. But it, definitely goes with his character. But I think it's also just because of the fact that Ash just, is older now. He doesn't really know if he can do that anymore. So Kelly's on a FaceTime with her dad, and this was really interesting. Her mother, his wife, died 6 months ago. He's scared and says that she's there. She's a Deadite. And her mom walks in the door. His phone cuts out, and that was actually quite a scary scene, I have to say. Again, they know how to make the show scary, even when it's not really scary. They do a good job at making it scary, even when it's not really, doesn't seem like it's going to be. I like that. So Pablo says he'll take Kelly to his dad's house. The manager stops him from leaving. The evil is almost here, and they ride off on Pablo's motorcycle. The manager is killed off screen with a yell, and a man then goes back to the house where she encountered the Deadites. She finds her partner's shirt and is now sure that it did happen. Now she knows that she wasn't crazy, that she did in fact see it, and I love that. I love that they are taking this seriously. Again, there are things that are fun, but then you have Amanda's storyline, which they are taking seriously, and I think they're doing that very well, I have to say. Definitely, I really like what's going on with her. I'm surprised by how into her storyline I am. I'm just as interested as I am with Ash's, honestly. So Pablo and Kelly pull up to Ash's trailer. Pablo says that Ash is the only one that can help them and that he hopes he will. And basically, it's dark and the camera shows someone approaching the trailer, a low growl, and someone starts beating on the roof. An arm busts through the window, grabs Kelly, choking her. Pablo begs Ash to do something, and Kelly, is screaming, "Help me, help me." He grabs an axe off the wall. And despite Ash saying that he did not want to do anything, he goes right into badass mode, which I love. Even though Ash was saying, look, I'm not going to do it, he's still Ash, obviously. He's still Ash Williams, the badass. We're talking about a man that has a chainsaw for a right hand. I mean, it doesn't get more awesome than that. He grabs an axe off the wall, throwing it, perfectly severing the head. The evil starts attacking the trailer in force, now shaking it, sending things flying. Kelly screams for it to leave them alone, and it stops for a minute. Ash pulls Kelly up, grabs her belt, he starts putting something on. He grabs his boomstick, which just, it was awesome to see the return of the boomstick, really it was. He starts kicking Deadite ass. It really feels like we haven't like changed anything at all. It starts kicking Deadite ass after one comes in. He straps a shotgun to his back. Kelly asks who he is. He seems so different. And he says that I told you would cross your mind. Kelly wants them to go to her dad and save him from her mom. He tells her that they have to get to the bottom of the book. You know, he needs to see the guy about the book. That's what's important to him right now. And he opens a curtain and we see the silhouettes of his chainsaw. He opens another, and the woman from the trailer park is there, and she is also a Deadite. Obviously, we know that. She throws him around a bit and says, "We await you. It's time to test the mettle of men." She goes after Pablo, stabs him in the shoulder. She then goes after Kelly, who fights back admirably, but is clearly outmatched, and Ash then wakes up, and his shotgun is missing. And he takes off his hand, and Pablo kicks the chainsaw over. He catches it right on his hand. He revs it up and tells the Deadite it's time to dance. And this was just awesome when he had the chainsaw and he's just like, "I missed you." That was so cool. And he's basically does this in slow motion. She attacks, he swings, taking her head off. And he says, "You were right, no more running." And Pablo says, he is Jefe. And he says, "It's good to be back. How's it feel?" And basically Ash says it feels groovy, and that is how the episode ends. And what a great way to end a great premiere. I have to say, I absolutely loved it. Just so many great things packed in this premiere. So many things they're doing in this that they didn't do in the original show that I love. First of all, every single member of this cast is great. I love how different Pablo and Kelly are. Pablo is obviously like Ash's #1 fan. He's like his best friend. He loves everything that he does. He's obsessed with him. I mean, he is just all over Ash. He loves everything that Ash does, and I love it. While Kelly detests everything he does. I think that's very funny. I really enjoy that, and it's something that again, it's something that we really haven't seen before. We haven't seen someone who just straight out detests Ash and wants nothing to do with him and just fucking hates him, and that's exactly Kelly, and I love that. I think that's hilarious that they're doing that with their character, and I can't wait to see where they go with that. Definitely, she is a really great character, and the acting in this show is obviously fantastic. Let's just get into the acting of this show, because I think that's something that right off the bat I definitely was very impressed by, was how good all the acting was. I mean, I feel like we've seen all these characters from the beginning. They really all fit in there very well, and they very much understand what show they're on. Bruce Campbell, especially, right back into this role. Like, he feels like he's right there. He feels like he's never left. It feels like Army of Darkness was yesterday. I mean, it was today, technically, because I watched all 3 of these movies today. But, in retrospect, it's been 25 years. It's pretty incredible how he just got right back into this role, and it didn't feel tired at all. Ash himself feels tired, but I like the way that Ash is realizing, I gotta basically just get rid of all of what I said and step up and be the bigger man, because I gotta defend everyone. I love that he's willing to step up and do that. That's something I've always loved about Ash. You still see he's fully capable of taking down all these Deadites, and it's awesome, and I love that. I think Bruce Campbell is going to be awesome in the show, obviously, and he really is going to kill it. I can't wait to see what else he does. Ray Santiago as Pablo is also really great. I think he's a really great character. I definitely really like what they're doing with his character. Again, like I said, he really is in the role very well, but the chemistry between him and Bruce Campbell is just so great. I love the dynamic between the two. It's something that we really didn't get to see in the other Evil Dead movies. Of course, we did get to see, Ash's friend, I can't think of his name right now, the one that died. I can't think of his name right. What was his name? I can't think of his name. Oh, shit, what was his name? You guys know who I'm talking about. His friend from the first movie. I can't think of his name right now. But, he very much gives off the vibe of that character, but that was more of just a serious movie. This is just a really fun role, and I think he's doing it very well, and I love the interaction between Kelly and Pablo. Those two definitely are gonna date. I definitely think those two are gonna date. Ash and her have no chance, but I think, Kelly and Pablo definitely, I think, are gonna have some chemistry there. Even though she really does not like him, I feel like they're definitely setting up, some chemistry between them. And I think Kelly's storyline as well is very interesting. Her being, her trying to outrun her past and how her mother is a Deadite. It could be very interesting with her character, and I really like the way they're doing that. Oh, it's not Jill Marie Jones. I'm talking about Dana Di Lorenzo. She definitely doing a very good job. Jill Marie Jones, though, as Amanda Fisher, is also great. I love her character. I love how she thinks she's going crazy, and it's very much is a throwback to Evil Dead 2 with how Ash felt after the end of Evil Dead 2. You know, he thought he was going crazy. And she, I think, is definitely going to have a very interesting plot line of her thinking, you know, am I going crazy? Am I losing my shit? She's going to try not to lose her shit, but that might not be possible because of what she's going through. And I think definitely her character is going to be very interesting. I can't wait to see what they do with her. She definitely has potential to be a really great character. The only character we did not meet in this episode was Lucy Lawless's character, Ruby. We did meet Ruby in this episode. We did meet Ruby, and not too much with her. Obviously, she knows what's going on. She very much understands the Deadites, and she's the only other character besides Ash and Pablo that do understand what's going on here. Kelly seems to kind of understand, but doesn't fully understand, but Ruby seems to know. Why does Ruby know? We don't really know too much about her, and I definitely want to find out more about her character, because I think she could be very good as well. The directing, of course, by Sam Raimi is great. Now, I heard he only directed this episode. He's not directing the other ones, which is fine. I'd like to see how some other people do their take. And as long as they know how to do, you know, the Evil Dead show, how to do an Evil Dead episode, I'm pretty fine with that if they're going to do just like, if he's going to do one episode. You know, have him do an episode every then and again. We don't need him to do every episode. Obviously, you know, I think people are fully capable, and I think there are enough people that know how to do the evil, you know how to do Evil Dead and what makes Evil Dead good and what makes it bad. And hopefully these new writers know exactly what they're doing. But I think, you know, Sam Raimi just did a great job bringing it back to just straight up horror comedy. I mean, this is probably more ridiculous than just Evil Dead 2. I mean, it really is ridiculous, but that's why I love it. They're not afraid to do that. Now, people have been complaining about the effects on this show. They're supposed to be bad, okay? The effects are supposed to look really bad because that's the point. They're supposed to look half-assed. They're supposed to look cheap. This was always made to make fun of, you know, Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness were always making fun of B movies, and this definitely is making fun of really cheap, like, sci-fi TV shows, and I definitely really love the way they're doing that. They're doing that very well, and I think it's very funny, definitely. But again, like I said, there's so many things they're doing. They've already renewed the show for season 2, so you know it's going to be great. I mean, Starz renews shows typically within, like, a day of its premiere. I mean, that's nothing new. You know that Starz probably usually never cancels a show. I've never seen Starz cancel a show. Really, I don't. I think Star's been really consistent as of late, and especially with Outlander, ever since then, they've been really consistent. This is going to be another big hit for them. But like I said, they're doing a lot of things that the original show didn't do, like seeing other characters and how they deal with the Deadites, and of course, seeing Ash in the real world. I mean, it was awesome to just see Ash go to a bar and interact with a woman and have sex and all this stuff. Seeing him sing in a car. I mean, there's a scene where I forgot to say, he sings in a car. It's such an awesome thing to see. I absolutely loved it, and this is going to be a really fun show. I had so much fun with this first episode. I know I'm going to have tons of fun with this show. I can't wait to see how the rest of the episodes are going to be. I know they're going to be great. Let me know what you guys thought of this first episode. There's really not too much to talk about. What is going on with the Deadites? Obviously, Kelly's mom, what's going to happen with that? Kelly's dad's probably going to die. I mean, obviously, if her mom is in the house and she's the Deadites, her dad's probably going to die, so that's not going to be good. But it seems like we're going to find out more about Kelly's character, which I'm interested in seeing what happens with her. Ash does seem like he's a bit reluctant, but now it seems like he's much more confident about what's going to happen, which I love. But let me know what you guys thought of this premiere. I thought this was a fantastic premiere. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was just the perfect way to start this show. I really couldn't think of a better way for them to start it out. It definitely was really great. I love it it's 45 minutes as well. Honestly, great being 45 minutes. I loved how bloody it was. The show wasn't afraid to take a lot of risks. I mean, I don't remember as much swearing or sex or anything in the original movies, and I love the way they're taking you know, advantage of being more mature. I love the way they're doing that, and that's great. I think that's awesome. It's a hilarious show. I was laughing so many times throughout it. Definitely very funny stuff. I definitely really love that, and I think overall, this is just going to be a really great show. I can't wait for it. Let me know what you guys thought of this first episode. I can't wait for next week's episode, and I will see you guys in my next video, which I know I've waited so long, but because of it being Halloween, because of me waiting for trick-or-treaters all night, I did get to watch both Arrow and The Vampire Diaries, and those will be my next 2 reviews. Doctor Who will be up after those reviews. I have not yet seen Doctor Who, the Nick as well. I have to watch that, so those will be up as well. But our next review will be for Arrow, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.